and we're on the prowl.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of On the Prowl, the Daily Princetonian's weekly sports telecast. I'm Vikram Rao, Executive Editor for Sports, alongside Gabe Debenedetti, Associate Editor for Sports.
Hi, Vikram.
Hello, Gabe. This week we'll be talking about the weekend in Princeton athletics. To start things off, we'll talk about the men's lacrosse team, which enjoyed a mixed bag of results this weekend. The Tigers lost to Harvard for the first time since 1990, but won a share of the Ivy League title because Cornell also lost to Brown.
Yeah, as you said, it was a mixed bag of results. The Harvard team hasn't tended to be a very strong one over the last 20 years, but they've really been building up recently. And this Tigers team has been sort of shaky in recent weeks, except for last weekend's huge victory over a very questionable Dartmouth side.
Right.
They've been not doing so well, so people really weren't sure what to expect this weekend. Clearly, they couldn't get it together and ended up falling 11-8 in Cambridge.
Yeah.
But the Brown win over Cornell, Princeton beat Brown earlier in the year, really helped Princeton out. They clinched the Ivy League, a share of the Ivy League championship, and will make it to the first annual Ivy League postseason tournament.
Right. The Tigers are actually playing Cornell here at Class of 1952 Stadium next Saturday. The game will be televised live on ESPNU. If Princeton were to win the game, they will win the Ivy League title outright and will host the Ivy League tournament the next weekend, where they might might as well prepare for playing Cornell once again, because there's a pretty good chance that'll happen.
Yeah, these two teams have quite a history, especially a recent history with each other. They have traditionally been the top two powers in Ivy League lacrosse, and two of the best teams in the country, really, though this year may have proven that slightly different. Last year, Cornell beat Princeton twice, including once in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
But, who knows this year? Princeton has been struggling recently, and Cornell has not had the best season they've in recent years, after making it all the way to the finals against Syracuse last year.
And missing a championship by this much.
Right.
In other sports, the women's lacrosse team had a very big game against number 7 Dartmouth this week. The Tigers had struggled in recent weeks, losing a lot of games, but they came back this weekend and got a big win.
Yeah, we've been saying it all year long. This is a very young Tigers team. They lost a lot of great senior leadership, but they came back, played a heavily favored Dartmouth side, and put it away in overtime here at Princeton Stadium. It was a huge win for the Tigers. They really were not supposed to win this, but with the victory, they clinched at least a spot in the Ivy League tournament, which is something that we weren't sure if they were going to be able to do.
Right, and with a spot in the Ivy League tournament, you're 2 games away from an Ivy League championship and a spot in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And, while they have struggled this season, if the Tigers can put together 2 good games, who knows, maybe they'll find themselves back in the postseason tournament where they've been so often.
Right, and let's not forget that Princeton really is one of the traditional, at least in recent years, powers in national lacrosse.
Right.
So, truly, that they know what it feels like to be on a national stage playing these big teams. So, I wouldn't count them out in any way.
Definitely not. All right, moving on, we've got men's volleyball. The postseason started this weekend, and Princeton hosted Sacred Heart, who they defeated after 2 close sets. Princeton lost the first set, came back and won the second set. They cruised in the last 2 sets and won 3-1.
Yeah, and now they'll be facing George Mason next weekend. George Mason is a team that Princeton has beat before this year, and they're probably very confident going into this one, and hopefully we'll be able to pull out the win and perhaps play the team that they're their biggest rivals with, although it's not been too close, Penn State.
Penn State being the best team in the EIVA, a team that competes for national championships every year. Moving on from that, the spring football game took place this weekend. It was fans' first peek at Bob Serace and the new Tiger coaching staff. Things are still kind of coming together. There's not a clear depth chart yet, and so the game wasn't much of a game. It was more of a lot of drills, some game-like situations. What we do know for sure, though, is the team is going to try to push the tempo a lot more than they did in the past. And on the offense, the quarterbacks will be taking snaps from under center quite a bit more often than they did before.
Yeah, last year they suffered from a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball and had some trouble, moving the ball down the field. But, with this new look, we really could see something different from this Princeton team.
Right.
But it's important to note that with this whole new coaching staff, a whole new mentality has come in. And it's really not clear, where the Tigers will go. They still have an entire incoming class of freshmen that, didn't play, obviously. So it's really up in the air. It'll be a very interesting season for sure under a new coaching staff. But the spring game, did show us some good things.
Definitely. In other sports, the men's and women's track teams competed at the Penn Relays this weekend. Both teams got some good results there, and that's a good sign heading into HEPS, which are coming up.
That's right.
Women's water polo team fell to Bucknell in the Southern Championships, but will probably face the Bison again at the Eastern Championships next weekend.
Yeah, those two teams really tend to go neck and neck throughout the season. They're big rivals, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Right, because next weekend is going to be do or die. And finally, the baseball team, they've struggled all year. This weekend started out well with a win against Penn, but the Quakers took the next 3 games. Their bats were just too much to contain, and the Tiger offense could not keep up.
Yeah, I mean, shaky pitching again from the Tigers. It's been a problem from them all season. The first game was, not bad for Barnes, but after that, it really wasn't. It was how the Tigers have been playing all year. Their pitching just didn't come through for them. They've had struggles with that, and you can't do that against a tough Quaker offense.
Definitely not. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us this week on the Prowl. We look forward to seeing you again next weekend.